this is a feeling, because you wouldn't say, I feel that anxious. When my 16-year-old, you would just say, I feel anxious. So that is a true feeling, okay? I feel that more men should take this class. Is that a feeling or a thought? Yes, and that is true. I believe that. I believe that more people should take this class. I feel it's wrong for women to teach men. Is that a feeling or a thought? It's a thought. That's right. I feel angry when you talk about my mother. That is a feeling. I feel concerned that you're working too hard. And it is a process, okay? So we've been working on this for a little bit of time here tonight, just carved out a little bit of our weeknight to come together and talk about learning how to listen. And here's the seeker statement. Person comes up to you and they say, I'm so frustrated. No matter what I do, I can't please her. Okay, so you're the person that they're coming to. Here's how you put it together. You choose a tentative opening. So maybe you choose, so you're feeling irritated because you are unable to please her. You see how those three things connect? Okay, so you've got the statement that the person makes, and they just make it randomly, whatever they come up with and whatever they say. You come back with a tentative opening, and you identify the thought and the feeling, and you bring them from here to here. That's the goal, so you can get something done. You definitely want to bring them down. So that's the whole reason why you're doing that. So could you see yourself doing that in an everyday conversation with somebody that comes to you with something like that? Writing empathetic responses. I can't go to the picnic this weekend. John will be there. I don't think I could stand seeing him with someone else. So, somebody give me a tentative opening to respond to this person.
So you don't think saying with someone else?
Okay.
I mean, is that what you would say?
Right.
Tentative opening?
Right, yeah. So you don't think that you could stand seeing him with someone else. Yeah. She's just using the word so. So you don't think you could stand it to see him with someone else. Yes, that's very good, and that's very simple. Okay. And you might want to throw in then a feeling word there, that it makes you anxious, or it might make you uneasy to see him with someone else. I don't think you could stand it. That is probably your feeling word. It's probably, the word that expresses the feeling. Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Whenever I think about the promotion my boss promised me, I start to get all jittery inside. What would be an opening that you would come back with? A tentative opening. Who's feeling brave in the back?
It sounds like you're nervous about getting that promotion.
Perfect. She said it sounds like you are nervous about getting that promotion. Okay, and maybe the person would come back and say, no, I'm not really nervous. I'm scared to death. Okay? Because maybe for them, it means everything. It's do or die time for them career-wise. And maybe they've put it all on the line. So when you come up with that tentative opening, so it sounds like you are nervous about this promotion, that opens up the possibility of the other person to bring more information to the conversation so that it's much more meaningful. Maybe you've hit it right on the head. Maybe you've got it exactly right, and everybody's going, yeah, let's definitely pray about that. And this is the last element of our three parts of our listening. We communicate with warmth with our nonverbals. We communicate empathy with our tentative opening and our understanding of the problem. And the third piece is respect, and to understand that all human beings are worthy of our respect because of the place that God gave them, because He created them in His image. They are worthy of respect. And that's a big piece here. So we're focusing on that as our third core condition. The world's philosophy on respect is that one has to earn it. Is that God's philosophy on respect? No. He gave it. And He says in the beautiful scripture verses that we just read that we are to respect people on the same level, whether they are a king or a pauper. It doesn't matter. We are to respect them because they are created the same in the image of God. And it's a commandment. To obey this commandment, we need a working definition of respect. Respect means recognizing and communicating value or worth to another person. So that's what we see in those verses, and that's what we see is our call. What implication does this have for Christians seeking to obey this command? Everyone deserves the same respect. Every person we meet is an eternal creature made in God's image. What do researchers say about respect? Treating our children with the same respect that we would show to adults builds positive self-esteem and enhances discipline. Have you ever been guilty of that if you're a parent? Have you ever been guilty of showing more respect to a perfect stranger who happens to be an adult than you would to your child? I was guilty of that. I just got a brand new car. It's the first car that I've had for 15 years. I've been driving a minivan with those boys for 15 years, and I finally got into a car. And I bought a new car. I was so excited. It smelled new. It looked new. It was new. And I had the car for 3 weeks. And we have a lot of bikes and scooters in our garage. You know, they have those handles on them, and sometimes the rubber parts fall off of the handles, and so then it's just a metal piece. And our garage is kind of small, and so when the boys go in and out of the garage, occasionally they're a little clumsy with their bikes and scooters and whatever. And so somebody clipped my brand new car with the little bike thing, so it had a little tiny dent in the driver's side door, just a little bitty ding. And it was on a day when I had to drive the boys to school because there was a science project and we were running late, and I had to get to a business meeting. So there was a lot going on that day. It was a very exciting day in the Graaf's household. So I'm outside and I'm loading in the display and everything into the back of the trunk, and I walk around to the driver's side and I see the dent, and I just go off. I can't believe it. I waited 15 years to get a car, and you can't put a thing into it in 2 days. So I was not using my training in that moment. Okay. So I finally get the boys to school, and I go to my business meeting, and I'm coming back from the business meeting, and I'm sitting at a red light. And the light turned green. The arrow turned green for the traffic to go next to me, but my light was still red. And a big truck behind me wasn't paying attention. And what he did was, he wasn't coming at me at any kind of force, but he let off the brake and just pressed on the gas, and he crunched my back end. He hit me. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But when he got out of the car, perfect stranger, now remember, this just happened with my kids in the garage, with a little ding you could barely see, and he crunched up my trunk, my taillights, the whole back end of my car was like a piece of raw hamburger, you know. And he got out and he goes, oh, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I go, oh, I'm fine. It's okay. Yeah, I just, that's exactly what I was doing. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that it's, I'm saying, hey, I'm a mother of 5 boys. I'm allowed to get a little nutty every once in a while. So I'm giving myself permission to be real, to be just a real human being. But I've left that dent there. I got my whole car repaired, but I intentionally left that dent there. It's still there to just remind me it's just a car and that they're kids. And to respect. Okay, it happened. Could I change that it happened? No. I've moved their bikes and scooters over to my husband's side of the garage. I don't care about it. Okay, so the respect. Now, here's our respectometer. And you see how with EMI, we kind of give you tools to evaluate where you are on the spectrum. We try to give you measuring sticks, of what's healthy and what's balanced. And because we're just human. I mean, I'm a human mom. I'm not going to deny it. I get ticked off at my kids every once in a while. But we still need to have that respect. So the respectometer is designed to give us a reading on how much respect we are showing. If the helper shows open contempt for the seeker, now remember, the helper is the listener, the seeker is the person coming to them with information. If you show open contempt, the seeker will experience attack. If the helper or listener has hidden contempt for the seeker will experience condemnation. Remember that when we spoke about warmth, we said that we may not say something verbally, but our nonverbal body language speaks volumes. So you have to be very careful about that. You want to be right in the middle. You want to be just right even there, not too hot, not too cold, just nice and in the middle so you can get somewhere, so you can get things done. Let's practice rating statements for respect. Here's a situation. Your friend is considering relocating to another state and taking another job. He is feeling torn between pursuing new opportunities for advancement and having to leave old friends and family behind. So look at the respectometer and decide if the response is too hot, too cold, or just right. So here's the situation. I'll just read it from here. So your friend is considering to relocate, and this is what you are going to say. So we're going to now evaluate where you are with respecting what they're saying. Are you with me? Okay? So this is what you say. You say, "You've got to be kidding. Why would you take such a risk when you already have a good job?" That's too hot? That's actually on the cold side. It's hot. It's hot because it's loud and because it's, accentuated, but it's on the cold side. It's like, okay. You sound excited about the possibility of moving up in your career, but it might be somewhat costly emotionally. That's just right. That's right in the middle. So, it might be. It gives you, again, kind of a tentative word. You're just saying perhaps, that kind of thing. Okay. If you had any faith, you would realize that God will provide for you. Isn't that loving? I'm so concerned for you and your family. Maybe I could help by meeting each of them individually to process their fears. That's super hot. That's one of the things, like we talked about a little bit earlier and alluded to, over-involvement. That's getting way too into it. It may be a little scary to change jobs and not know what effect that will have on your family. That's nice. Doesn't that just feel nice? When you hear that, it just sounds nice and it feels nice. Okay, so this is the monkey part. Who's been waiting for the monkey part to hear about that? Okay, good. We're going to read some verses in context, and they provide a paradox for us. Okay, here's the verse. We call this section Burdens and Loads. And we want to make sure that we're not taking on more than what we are called to do as Christ followers, okay? Brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore him gently. But watch yourself, or you may be tempted. Carry each other's burdens or borrows, and in this way fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. Each one should test his own actions. Then he can take pride in himself without comparing himself to somebody else. For each one should carry his own load. So there's your difference. each one should carry his own load, but carry one another's burdens. Now, does that sound like it's an oxymoron? Does it sound confusing? So let's talk about that. What is a burden and what is a load? What are your thoughts? Go ahead.
One is when I carry it and one is when I fix it.
Okay, he said one is when I carry it or help, and one is when I fix it. Okay?
We all have our own share of the load, but we're not called to have a burden.
Okay, she's saying we all have our own share of the load, but we're not called to have a burden. Okay? In the back, somebody else?
Well, load is our own responsibility to carry our own.
Right.
And burden is just something that's beyond your ability to handle and you need to share.
Right. Okay, so she said a load is your own responsibility. We all have things that we're responsible for. And a burden is something that you can share with other people, that we're called to help and live interdependently with one another. And so is it ever tricky for you to discern when you're going too far? I mean, one of the questions that we had earlier was about that. When do you say, when do you draw a line? When do you have a boundary there? In verse 2 of this passage, we are told to carry each other's burdens. But in verse 5, we're told that each person must carry his own load. So looking at the Greek words for burden and loads, the Greek word for burden is baros. It means something heavy, pressing down on a person physically, emotionally, or spiritually. The concept here is a weight too big to be carried alone. So remember that. It's a weight too big to be carried alone. That's a burden. Okay. What does the word, I don't know if this is pronounced fortion or portion, but it's P-H-O-R-T-I-O-N. What does the word look like? It looks like portion. Okay. The idea is of a duty or a task that belongs to a specific person. In modern English, we'll call this type of weight personal responsibility. Okay, so does that help to make it clearer for us? No? Somebody's shaking their head. What's your question?
I don't understand.
Okay. Sometimes people will try to get other people to do things for them that are not the other person's responsibility. And sometimes as Christians, we will take that on because we feel like, you know, it's the Christian thing to do. I'll give you a few examples from my own life. I did this more when I was in my 30s. I don't know what happened to me when I turned 40, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. I just all of a sudden learned how to say no to people and not think about it again. But in my 30s, I was having a lot of children in that decade. From about 25 to 35 is when I had my children. And in that time span, I spent a lot of time at home. And so everybody knew that I was home. And in my neighborhood, occasionally, some of the other mothers would think that it was okay to call on me to help raise their children. And I would occasionally let that happen to the point where it was a little too much for me. I had enough of my own load. My load. Eric, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please.
Well, my load, my responsibility is my children, right? I am responsible for the care of my own children. This happened to me one day. My next door neighbor called up. Her child was sick. He couldn't go to school. He had been throwing up, and she had to go to work. So she had a responsibility to go to work. Her load was her child. I was pregnant with my 5th baby, and I had 2 other babies at home and 2 school children. And she called me and asked me if I would babysit her sick child while she went to work. And I did. And that's what I'm saying is wrong with that scenario, because I took her load. She had her responsibility was to her child and to her work, and it wasn't my problem. and it wasn't my responsibility to fix her problem. So does that bring it into more kind of a everyday kind of scenario of what can happen, Eric?
Yeah, I always use the example off of the church because, like, the pastor doesn't own the church. Actually, it's a community, so everyone has to do their part. And you meet churches, you go to churches where the pastor's doing everything, and that's too much of a burden.
Right.
So everyone should take their load and make it a community.
That's a great example. He gave the example of a church, and when the pastor does everything, what happens to the pastor? He's done. He's done. He burns out and he's done. And his family's done. Do you have a question?
Yeah. The question I asked earlier, it wasn't about doing, like taking somebody's listening and doing something. I'm talking about somebody comes to you and you start this listening process and it becomes very evident that they're not going to get off this problem. They're not asking you to do anything. But they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and you can't go anywhere with it. You've already established that relationship of talking with them, and then if you suddenly cut that relationship off, would it be more harmful? Because you figure out you can't do anything for this person. They're just digging themselves, and do you understand? They're not asking to do anything, but how long do you listen to somebody before you say, we can't help you, I can't do anything? And then you establish that relationship of listening. Yeah. And I'm afraid that you would do more harm to that person.
Yeah, that's such a, the question that she's asking again is about people that just constantly want to pour their problems on you and have you constantly be the listener. Do I have that right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so they're just burdening you, more draining you maybe emotionally, just constantly giving you this information, but it just never stops. Is that? Yeah. And so then it kind of drains the energy out. That's probably more of the speaking the truth in love class that EMI offers, and there's steps of how to do that lovingly and how to draw a boundary and a barrier there. And it's so individual, with each individual person. And tonight our goal is just to learn the listening piece. So I know that happens. It's happened to me. I know it happens to you. And I would just encourage you to begin here and then move on from here to the rest of the courses so that you can gain more of that knowledge and information of how to work with that. Eric, do you have some insight?
Yeah, I just want to say that. I think 90% of the problems can be solved using this beginning technique. And the thing is, what you want to do is allow the person really to solve their own problem.
Right.
And if the person doesn't figure out how to solve the problem, then you can go to what? Right. The second level. But the second level is actually going deeper in the heart. And it actually is, it takes a lot more skill. Sometimes you do want to just do what we just talked about, burdens and loads. If it's too much of a burden for you, obviously that's something that you just have to say no. Right. I would think.
But I'm fearful if you start listening to somebody, you establish a trust relationship, and then you figure out, it's a burden, right, and you try to get out, then you're going to, this whole Christian relationship of listening is going to turn to a distrust of people listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're also taking too much responsibility for the other person. That's the whole problem.
Yeah, just to recap what they're saying for the benefit of those that maybe can't hear, the general idea is that it's difficult for us when we're in situations that other people want us to solve their problems. And the idea of healthy communication is to helpfully and healthfully for both parties learn to solve your own problems. But there are times when we do have those burdens that we do need to share together collectively, that we do need a little extra help with. So it's not, it's a delicate balance, and the idea is to live in healthy relationships, and sometimes people are unhealthy when they come to you, and you can't undo, wherever they are. You can only go from where, you can only meet people where they are and go from there. Did somebody say something? Sorry, I thought I heard somebody. If you follow these steps and you use, the methods and you reflect back to them and you encourage openness, sometimes you might have situations that you're not sure exactly what to do. but by and large, most of the time, your listening will be appreciated, and it will become, you'll be in that middle ground where you can be healthy.
You're talking basically with people that are on a normal basis. How about people with special needs?
Okay, so
with relatives and so forth.
The people with special needs or with their family members?
Family members in one-on-one with them.
I think, okay, so this question is, we're talking in general about more like everyday situations, although that can become, that's a great example, because I myself don't have any experience with caring for someone who has special needs. However, I can have a conversation with someone. If someone comes to me and they say, I can't take it anymore, I am overwhelmed, and this situation has got to change. Okay, so let's say that that's the statement that's said to me. I can enter into that conversation healthfully and with confidence, even though I have absolutely no experience, because I don't have to have experience in that realm, in that world, to be able to connect with warmth, empathy, and respect. And this is the way that I would respond to that person. I would say, wow, it sounds like you are overwhelmed and just about at the end of your rope. And do I have that right? And that person would be like, yeah, she gets it. Maybe I don't get it on a daily basis because I've not been there, but I'm not saying sympathy, I'm saying empathy. I am empathizing with you. I am imagining what it would be like for you. And with genuineness and warmth and love, I'm communicating that to you, that I understand that you are going through the situation that I've never been in. Does that answer your question? Okay. So, this whole part about burdens and loads is very important. And when your anxiety about another person's feelings, problems, or behavior leads you to take on their responsibilities yourself, those are monkeys. That's what was happening to me when I was in my 30s. I would feel so bad for the neighbor with the sick child because she had to go to work that I would say, okay, I'll help you. And I would feel so bad for somebody else who had nowhere to drop their kids while they went grocery shopping. I would say, okay, I'll help you. Pretty soon I had a yard filled with kids. And then I'm going crazy. So those were my monkeys. When you choose to help someone by listening, being with them, or providing caring emotional support, it's not a monkey. It's doable. It's listening, understanding, connecting, but it's not doing. It's being, not doing. I love that. When you are worried by another person's problem, when you're more worried than they are about their problem, that's a monkey. That is a monkey. And you got to get those monkeys off of you. When you choose to help someone without taking control or ownership of their problem, it's not a monkey. That's healthy relating. When you choose to connect, listen, engage, understand with warmth, empathy, and respect, you're able to kind of travel with them vicariously through the problem, but not be in the problem, not become a part of the problem. Okay. When you don't feel anxious, compelled, or manipulated into helping, it's not a monkey. When you experience grace and freedom in making your decisions, it's not a monkey. So what if you feel guilt? That's a monkey. If you feel, resentment because you've made a decision, and I used to feel that way. I would agree to watch these children, and then I would feel resentment toward the person who I said yes to. That's my problem. I needed to learn to say, no, I'm not available, I'm so sorry. And now I'm just a much happier person. Sometimes we don't even know when it's happening, and I would say that was me. I didn't even realize that I was letting myself fall into this trap. How many of you have gotten a call from the PTA after you agree to get off the phone and you wonder, why did I just say yes to that? Okay? Or we get angry and frustrated by the things that we've agreed to do. Who do we get angry and frustrated with? You should all be so happy that you're here right now because I am giving you the biggest permission to say no. It's not your responsibility. It's so freeing. Okay. On the surface, taking responsibility for others' monkeys may appear to be a noble act of self-sacrifice, but in reality, it communicates disrespect and a lack of confidence in the other person's ability to deal with their own problems. Okay, now I'm going to use my life example of the babysitter with the woman who worked and had the barfing child. She was leaning on me, okay, and I was letting her. I was resenting her. It wasn't a good thing for our relationship, okay, and it wasn't good for her either, because really she had bitten off more than she could chew, right? She had this job and she had the sick child and she had no plan B. I'm not saying that mothers can't work, but you got to have a plan B, you know, if your kid is sick. So if I were to say no to her, I was her plan B, you know, by default. But if I were to say no to her, then that helps her to be more responsible parent and more responsible to set things up and have a little plan B. Okay. We're winding down here. We're calling this the quadruple type A behavior and the prescription for recovery. Okay, some of us may have quadruple type A behavior. We may have what is called Messiah complex. Okay? What is the Messiah complex? When you are over anxious, do I think I have to have all the answers for everybody? Do I believe I have to always be available? Would it be good if people called me 24 hours a day? What does that affect on my family? Am I feeling angry much of the time? Do I tend to try to please everyone? Do you know the only thing for sure about trying to make everyone happy is that you won't. You can't. There's no way. Okay, I'm going to ask my new friend, Marita, to come on up here. Marita we're going to do a little role play, okay? And she's no longer Marita, she's Mrs. I'm a Nita Hall. Okay. So.
Hi, my name is Marita, and I'm a Needaholic. I need to be needed. You know, I just, you know, I do so much. I thought when I retired I was going to have some time to myself, but I'm at the church. They need me for everything, but it's okay. Because, I mean, they need my expertise. I understand, and I'm just there all the time. And then I find myself volunteering with my grandkids, and you know, and the people that, you know, sometimes they call me to come in and sub where I retired from. And I like that because, you know, the kids, they really love me, and they're glad to see me when I come. And then once I talk about my husband and my kids, oh God, I'm just like, man, can I ever have a time for myself? You know, they need me to find this, and it's right there in their face, but they need me, they call me, you know. And I'm just like, oh my God. But it's okay because I'm fulfilling, I'm taking care of their needs. It's all right.
Okay. Wow. Marita, I'm Anita Holland. Look at you, girl. Turn her around. These are monkeys on her back. These are all her monkeys. So the point of this little skit is to illustrate how unhealthy it is to be a Needaholic, to think that you need to be the answer to everybody's problem, to be that one who takes the children to the school and who drops off the dry cleaning, who makes the potluck, who answers the phone for the church and volunteers to do stuff in the community. You know, when you do that, you're going to burn out. You're going to just be burdened, you're going to be unhappy and miserable, and it's not healthy for the other people in your life either. So Thank you, Marita. You were wonderful. A round of applause. So how do you recover? Is anybody else that way? I admit it, I was more that way than I am now. But just raise your hand, just let it be. I'm Tracy, I'm Anita Hall. Okay, good. Good. Isn't this good? It feels good. Okay. So the objective here is to recognize the symptoms that indicate that we are carrying monkeys, and to realize that there are 4 possibilities of problem ownership, and to understand who owns the problem. Okay. Scripture says, "Be still and know that I am God. Then I can be peaceful, present for myself and others." Helpers who avoid taking on monkeys can minister life, hope, and peace to others without becoming burdened themselves. Handling monkeys in a healthy way requires a clear understanding of problem ownership. When sorting out who owns a problem, there are 4 possibilities about problem ownership. Number 1, I own the problem. It's my problem. They're my kids. It's my responsibility. It's my problem. Number 2, you own the problem. They're your kids. It's your responsibility. Number 3, we own the problem. It's a shared problem. We both have a piece of the problem, okay? We both have a part in it. Or, number 4, there's really no problem. So your job is to ask yourself, will taking on the problem, number 1, lead to inappropriate dependency? Or number 2, cause me quadruple type A behavior? Okay. So, in that scenario, when you're looking at problems, again, that's just a quick review of material that, we need to go way deeper in to really give it some teeth. But I just wanted to mention that because that's part of the monkey thing, is identifying what's a monkey and what's not. And to identify on the surface, you got to go back to whose responsibility is it, and how can you do it that way? Okay. We care and he cares. Oh, sorry, he cures. Thank you. To recognize the difference between responsible for others and being responsible to others and the consequences of each one. That's the goal of this particular piece of the information this evening. It is that we do care. We care significantly. We care deeply. But it's God who cures. It's Jesus who cures. So Christians can get confused when we equate being responsible for others and be responsible to others. When I feel responsible for others, I want to fix it. I want to protect. I want to rescue, control, carry their feelings. And that's where I invest too much of my own emotions. I don't listen. When I feel responsible to others, I show empathy, I encourage, I share, confront, I am sensitive, and I listen. The way that I feel when I am responsible for others is I feel tired, anxious, overwhelmed, perhaps, fearful, and liable. When I'm responsible to others, I feel relaxed and free. I feel aware. I feel a sense of high self-worth. And again, just going back to my example of the babysitting issue and the line crossing there, I just feel much more confident, you know, that I can tell somebody, no, that I can't, and I don't have to say it in a way that is harsh or rude or cruel, but I can say, no, I'm just not available, I'm sorry. And then let my brain be okay with that the world is not going to crumble if I don't take on this other person's burden and problem, because that's a real hardship. When you try to be responsible for others, when it's really their responsibility, you're concerned with the solution, the answer, the circumstances, being right, details, performance, and you can become a manipulator in the situation, because it's not your situation to deal with. But when you are responsible to others, you're relating person to person as an equal to others. You're listening to feelings and thoughts, and you are respecting the other person. You're a helper and a guide. You can trust and let go, and let God do what God is supposed to do, and what He only is able to do in those inner portions of the heart. That is right.
We are wrapping it up here.
And how to handle monkeys, the first step in handling those monkeys is to apply the listening step. So reviewing again, the warmth piece is your nonverbals. To be able to get to the root of the problem by your eye contact, your sensitive seating, your open posture, your environment is not distracting. Then step 2 is to identify in your own mind who owns the problem. Is this my problem? Okay, so the example with the ad. When the woman called me about the ad, and when she called, I thought we screwed up. I thought, okay, we're done. She's going to hate us, and I got to own this. And I said to her, I said, ma'am, I will get to the bottom of this, and I am fully responsible for my business. And if this is a problem that is on our end, it's a win-win situation. You are going to be a happy camper. We'll refund your money. We'll do whatever you need us to do to make it right for you, because that's the kind of business owner that I want to be, okay? Turned out it wasn't my thing, so I was like, yeah. But if it's my problem, if I made an error, I need to own it. And it's my responsibility to make it right, not hers. It's not for me to dicker over or to complain about. It's my thing. Okay. Step 3, gently clarify with the seeker who the monkey belongs to. So here's the example with, again, the advertiser lady. I gently responded back to her. Once I knew for sure, that we were free and clear, first I was doing the happy dance in my car, like, oh, thank you, because I had a pit in my stomach. When she came at me, here, verbally, I just had this knot in my stomach that I hated. And I could have responded to her, hey, this is not my thing. Your mom is crazy. The ad is right there. I don't know why she didn't see it. And by the way, it happens to be the 4th of July. And by the way, why would you call me like that and just start jumping down my throat, when you don't even have the facts? Did I do that? No. I gently found out who owned the problem. I gently said to her, perhaps there was a mistake and maybe your mom saw one of our issues that was before your ad was to appear. Perhaps she, pulled it out of a different stand that wasn't an issue that you purchased. Okay, so I gently brought her to the point where, okay, we knew what happened. Thank you. It was great. But, I had to be willing to own up to it if it was my thing. Go ahead.
I hope you learned how to be more careful who gets your cell phone number.
Okay, that's one of my problems is